Hey, welcome to Blue Jacket Apiary. We're in the middle of July. It's a beautiful weekend, but middle Missouri, July, those two things equal pretty darn hot. What that also means is that our dearth is well underway. There's not a whole lot blooming, and so whatever the bees collected in spring, they now have to live on for the next month and a half or two until things really start coming out in the fall. And that means that if I go get in their hive right now, they're probably going to be a little persnickety, mainly because they've got to defend what they've got. And so they can get testy. So I'm going to risk it. I'm not going to stay long because the longer I'm in a single hive, the greater the chances are for robbing. What that means is a stronger hive will come and they'll try to take whatever they can from another hive. And it starts an all-out war, and really neither side wins. Both sides, eventually somebody's going to lose, but what I'm saying is that it's going to cost both sides a lot, but they don't care because they got to survive, and that's what they're doing. So something else that beekeepers have to think about is honeycomb. You know, I've said it on my Facebook page a couple of times. Comb is like gold to beekeepers. Drawn honeycomb does a lot for the bees, but it does just as much for the beekeepers. In the spring, we might do a split. And if we take one hive and we take some frames and we take the queen and we put her in another box and we allow the initial hive to make their own queen, suddenly we go from one hive to two, but we also have to split the comb. And so if we don't have drawn comb, then both hives have to draw it. That means it takes a tremendous amount of nectar and honey and energy and everything else just to draw that comb. Whereas if we have comb that's drawn, they can get started right away. The queen can get to laying right away. They can start putting away nectar right away. It really gives them a huge boost. The downside is drawn comb takes a huge amount of nectar, takes a huge amount of honey, takes a huge amount of effort. And the bees that are putting all the effort into that and using up all the honey and the nectar to build comb, they're not out gathering and they're not out putting away honey. So it's quite an expensive ordeal when you stop thinking about it in dollars and start thinking about it in other ways for the hive, for the colony itself. It becomes an expensive proposition. So there are a couple of things we can do. I'm in year 2. I can just let things play out as they are and let the bees go. Come fall, let them do whatever they're going to do, put away whatever honey they're going to put away, make whatever comb they need to make. The downside to that is if they spend a lot of time and energy and effort and nectar building comb in the fall so they can make honey and put it away, they put away less because they've had to use some to make comb. So what are my options? It's a good question. What are my options? My options are nothing. I can do nothing and see how things play out. You know, my goal is to go into winter with 5 and come out with 5. My other option is what I'm going to do today. If you look back here, got my suit, got my gloves, you'll see some buckets and stuff. Normally I would not do this, but this is a little bit different situation than what you may call normal. I'm going to feed them, but I'm not going to feed them I'm going to feed them sugar waters that's at a ratio of 1-to-1. Stimulates the wax glands, hopefully. They will spend the next 2 or 3 weeks making wax, building comb. I've got 5 hives out here. 4 of them have a second box. Let's see if we can get them in the background. There we go. You can see 4 of them have a second box. 1 of them does not. But none of them, even if they have a second box, have a box with drawn comb. Every one of those second boxes just has comb. Or just has frames, excuse me. I don't think any of them have frames with foundation. I think they're all foundationless. There are some pluses and minuses to that. That's a whole other video that I'll go into things like that. But for now, just know they're going to have to, if I expect to get any kind of a honey harvest next year, I'm going to have to feed them this year so that they can hopefully, knock wood, draw some comb and have some place to store away some honey either this fall, if they build enough and the flow is heavy enough, or do it next spring. Hopefully I get both. It would be nice to have some leftover fall honey and some spring honey, get the dark stuff from the fall, get the lighter stuff from the spring. That would be optimal. But I don't know how it's going to play out, so I'm just going to go with it and see what happens. But like I said, I'm going to feed them, and I'm going to add a box to the hive on the end that does not have a second box right there. And I'm going to add a third box to that one so that I can feed them in the hive, lower the chances of robbing. And I'll probably do the same with this one and that one. These two on the end, I will probably feed them in hive. I'll put a hive feeder on top. That'll help keep them from getting robbed. The other three, what I'm gonna do is I got that big bucket right there. It's got 2.5 roughly gallons of sugar water in it. I'm gonna put that up on the other side of the house, so they have to fly around and get to it. Again, that helps with robbing, because bees are smart. They're not stupid creatures by any stretch of the imagination. They'll go back and forth between the feeder and the hive, and other bees will follow them, and you can start robbing. So one way to prevent that, or to lower the risk, is to put it someplace out of line of sight of the hive. So I'm going to put it up on the other side of the house. So that's what today is all about. It's not really about inspection, although I can see from here all 5 hives got bees going in and out. So life is good. I will probably look at the single box hive on the end, just because that one's been sort of sketchy. Although I see bees coming in and out, so I may just throw the box on, the excluder, feed them, and see what happens. But stay tuned, there's more to come. All right, so we're on the hive at the end. You can see now it's 3 deep. I've got my inner cover down here, brown stuff. That would be cinnamon. Helps keep the ants out. This is a hive top feeder on the bottom lid. Well, on the top, bottom, something. Anyhow, the lid has a bunch, maybe 6 or 8 really small holes, and they go up underneath and get to the sugar water that's in there. What happens is this forms a vacuum and keeps it from just draining out the bottom. And what they do is they go in there and get the nectar as they need it, and hopefully start building comb in this box. So let's hope they do that soon. All right, this hive feeder is a little bit different. Again, this is the other hive. Initially had 2, now it's got 3. This feeder is a little bit different. As you can see, it goes right down into the top of the hive. Put this on, and then what they do is they crawl up this thing on the inside, crawl down the outside, get their little nectar, go back down and into the hive, and hopefully they build comb. Oh, we're just gonna put some in here. Sugar water, that's a little over 2 quarts, probably 2.2 quarts of sugar water. And of course, I'll put some cinnamon down around it. Again, just to keep out the ants. And hopefully they'll start drawing comb. So I've shown you a couple of different hive feeders, and this is one of my Apimaye hives. This one, the feeders are built in. You saw on the other ones here, there you can see that little white line. That's a queen excluder. You go up to the top, and underneath the cover, there's an inner cover is what they call it. Well, on the Apimaye hives, the feeder is the inner cover. I take this off, and I'm in. There are the bees. So on these hives, these are feeders, and they're covers. The difference is you have to make sure that this is set right, because syrup here, candy here. So if I'm feeding candy hard, I pick it up and I spin it around. But I'm not doing that. I'm feeding syrup. So I want to make sure that's set right. What it does is it restricts their ability to go too far down so they don't drown. So, but I'm not going to feed them here. I probably should, but I'm not going to, because this hive and these 2 are going to get fed from that big bucket. I'm going to let them fly out and do their thing. Now, if I have some idea that, things are getting ugly, maybe they're fighting too much or something, then I very well may come out and feed them through these. I probably will end up doing that anyway, but for now, I am going to go with the bucket and let them go get their own food or their energy for making comb. But what I am going to do is take some cinnamon and sprinkle it around the inside here, just again to keep out the ants. All right, that's it. We put 2 hive top feeders on 2 of the 5 hives. I put out the bucket on the other side of the house. Again, to help prevent robbing and fighting and all of that kind of thing. Because can I stop it completely? No. The only thing I could do is feed them all from within the hive. And I just don't have enough. I don't have enough buckets and all kinds of stuff to do that. So do what you can with what you have where you are, and that's what I'm doing. So we're in the dirt. Feed my bees 1-to-1 sugar water so they can draw some comb, and hopefully this fall, maybe next spring, I'll get some honey out of these guys and gals. I'm hoping to go into winter with 5 and come out with 5. So fingers crossed. I'm going to do everything I can, short of putting chemicals and stuff inside of my hives to make sure that happens. Y'all stay cool. It's hot out. And remember, be kind.